What's up, guys, and welcome back to yet another podcast episode. Today, we're going to be finishing our predictions for the MLB divisions. We're in the final one, NL Central, one of our favorite divisions because of our favorite team. But we're trying not to be biased today. We're just trying to do projections, just kind of talk about to you guys what maybe happen, what we think is going to happen this season.
Yeah, we kind of put off the NL Central for last, like you said, our favorite division. Just looking forward to finishing up our predictions and talking about what's going to happen with our favorite team.
Yeah. All right. So for the beginning, we always talk about PECOTA because PECOTA is like the best projection system out there. And number one, they have our St. Louis Cardinals going 84.4 and 77.6, winning the division. Number two is the Chicago Cubbies at 82 wins. Number three is the Milwaukee Brewers at 79.5 wins. Cincinnati at 77.4 in fourth place, and Pittsburgh Pirates in fifth place. What do you think about PECOTA?
I think the PECOTA projections look pretty spot on compared to what I think is going to happen. One thing that I think is interesting, the Reds, I think, are kind of a trendy team with some other experts to maybe come out of the NL Central as a kind of a surprise division winner. But it has, PECOTA has the Reds finishing fourth. But I would say also, between first place and fourth place, it's only 7 games different. So it's not like PECOTA is projecting the Reds to fall off a cliff or anything like that. I think it just goes to show that the NL Central is going to be a super competitive and tight division all the way through.
Yeah, it's not going to be as competitive as the AL East, but it's going to be close and it's going to be fun division to watch. For last year, it was very different from PECOTA's projecting this year. Last year, the Brewers won, the Cubs were in second, the Reds in third, the Pirates in fourth, and the Cardinals in fifth. And then some notable moves kind of shifted some things a little bit this offseason. The Cardinals, they signed Sonny Gray, their ace that everyone thought that they were – not everyone, but most people thought that they were probably going to sign him. Sonny Gray, he wanted to be in St. Louis. So they signed Sonny Gray. They got Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, and then a few other bullpen arms, mostly the biggest one probably for trading for Andrew Kittredge. But yeah, Cardinals had a pretty busy offseason. No one that besides Sonny Gray, no one that was like top tier besides Sonny Gray, but it definitely helped.
Yeah, I think just improving the rotation. I think it goes a lot to show where the Cardinals ended last year when you signed guys like Kyle Gibson, you sign guys like Lance Lynn, and those guys automatically become improvements to your rotation. So none of those guys are really going to wow you too much. But what they are going to do is they are going to pitch solid innings. They're generally not going to get injured, and they're going to take some of the pressure off the bullpen. The Cardinals improved their bullpen as well, but what they got to do is they got to keep the innings off those bullpen arms. I think the last year the Cardinals bullpen was exhausted by June.
Yeah.
And that was just a recipe for disaster down the stretch. I mean, granted, by June they were already in a huge hole. But I think it's a way to improve their team by raising the middle and the bottom of the roster as opposed to stacking guys on the front end, which is what the Dodgers did. The Dodgers went out and just signed as many awesome players as they could. The Cardinals improved by trimming off some of the guys at the bottom of that 25-man roster and improving them. So 2 different ways to do it, and Cardinals chose a different path.
Yeah. All right, for the Reds, they took a risk. They're hopefully Frankie Montas can do something this year. They signed Jeimer Candelario and also got Nick Martinez. Not a whole lot for the Reds, but there's these 3 main moves are pretty good for their team.
Yeah, I think the Reds are one of those teams that are going to rely on their own internal, their young guys coming out through the minor leagues. So not a huge need to go out and sign a bunch of players. The Reds feel like they're in
Yeah, the Cubs, 2 of their biggest moves were re-signing Cody Bellinger and getting Craig Counsell. They got him from the Brewers. So far, he hasn't done much besides re-sign Cody Bellinger. I guess they did get Shota Imanaga and Hector Neris, but that was really it. But Craig Counsell, they're hoping that he can lead the Cubs somewhere this season.
Yeah, it says a lot when one of your major moves is, replacing your manager.
Yeah.
So it's like that was one of the biggest things that they did. They signed Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger signed for one of those, another kind of like a prove it contract.
Yeah.
People were wanting to see that he was more than just a 1 year wonder. I guess a 1 year wonder again. After definitely taking a nosedive a couple seasons ago.
Yeah. For the Pirates, they surprisingly had a pretty busy offseason. They signed Aroldis Chapman, Roddy Tellez, Martin Perez, and a few other guys that they don't really need mentioning. But yeah.
I think just the fact that the Pirates were willing to spend the money that was necessary to sign a guy like Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah.
Not exactly sure what the thought process is there.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of is like, hey, if Chapman is good, he's a valuable trade piece at the deadline to a contending team, and maybe they can get more prospects that way. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what the Pirates are doing, but for the Brewers, they signed Rhys Hoskins, Gary Sanchez, and Brandon Woodruff. But it was kind of confusing for the Brewers this offseason because it looked like sometimes it was looking like they were all in for the season. They were going to keep Corbin Burns. They were going to go sign more guys, go and hopefully win the division. And then they traded Corbin Burns for like Joey Ortiz and DL Hall. And then you're kind of scratching your head, and you're like, they signed all these guys, Rhys Hoskins, Gary Sanchez, Brandon Woodruff, who Brandon Woodruff isn't going to be, probably not play this season. But then they traded Corbin Burns, so it was just very confusing for the Brewers this offseason.
Confusing for more than just Brewers fans. I think it was confusing for everybody.
Everyone.
Just trying, again, not real sure what they're thinking, but as a Cardinals fan, I will take it if a team within the division looks like they don't know what they're doing, or doesn't look like they have a clear plan, or sending mixed messages. I'll take it.
Yeah, and now Sonny Gray, if you look at it, he may be the ace of this division. So that was good to see with Corbin Burns gone. Now we're going to kind of just recap. This is from power rankings, and we'll be power rankings. Just talk about the teams. Let's start off with the Pirates.
Pirates. They're taking their sweet time putting a roster together. From a 2024 perspective, O'Neal Cruz is back after breaking his ankle early in the season last year. And if former number one pick Henry Davis can learn from the rough patches he had last year, that lineup around guys like Brian Reynolds, Brian Hayes, and even Andrew McCutchen makes that group stronger. Either way, though, the pitching staff is still a big concern, and I don't think there's enough depth there to challenge for the division or for a wild card spot.
Yeah, the Pirates are kind of out this year. For the Brewers, Brandon Woodruff and Corbin Burns are really gone. Brandon Woodruff, he's out for the season, and Corbin Burns got traded. Turning a once dominant Milwaukee Brewers rotation, because remember they also have Freddie Peralta, into it might be just league average at this point, but there is no doubt that the exciting trio of Sal Frelick, Jackson Chourio, and Garrett Mitchell will show kind of what the Brewers are going to be in a few years, because he signed Jackson Chourio to his long deal. These other young guys are coming up, so maybe that's what they're seeing. And then it kind of coming down for the Brewers because Devin Williams also landed on the IL with stress fractures in his back, so that could be very bad for the Brewers.
Yeah, the Cardinals, after a down year last year, like I said, they strengthened their pitching rotation, signing Sonny Gray, Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson. No one's ever going to mistake the Cardinals starting rotation for a powerhouse lineup, but the one thing that they are bringing to the rotation with those guys is stability, right? And so improving the lineup, or improving the rotation by stabilizing improving their team by stabilizing the pitching rotation. If they can get guys like Jordan Walker and Mason Wynn to take that next step, that's going to make the lineup pretty formidable. You've already got MVP candidates like Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado in there.
Yeah.
Cardinals are definitely moving in the right direction, more than enough to challenge for the National League Central. Again, though, it's all going to come down to injuries. Sonny Gray with the hamstring injury in spring training looks like he's going to miss maybe the first week or two of the season. It's all going to come down to injuries. And so the Cardinals, spent the money on Sonny Gray, and now they're looking at injuries, and they've also got injuries to Tommy Edman starting to pile up. They're going to need all of those guys to make improvements, and they're going to need a little bit more luck when it comes to avoiding injury.
Yeah. For the Reds, credit to the Reds because usually it takes MLB teams like 5 or more years to tear things down, tank and then go up to be even a competitive team. But Cincinnati seems to they really accomplished that in like half the time. Jeimer Candelario, he should provide steady production at first base, and there's ample talent behind him in both the lineup and starting rotation. They have a lot of young players, and there's always risk with young teams not playing up to their ceiling. But no one should be really surprised if the Reds go on a pretty winning streak this year and maybe even go to a wild card or win the division. But Noelvi Marte is suspended 80 games he's been suspended 80 games. Not what you like to see because there was another one of their top prospects and Ellie De La Cruz and Matt McLean and TJ Friedl, they can't all do it themselves. They're going to have to get some other help.
Yep, and then finally the Cubs. It took longer than they predicted it to happen, but they finally re-signed Cody Bellinger early in spring training. Surely he's going to make a positive influence in the clubhouse. But by far the most important thing is putting his bat back in the lineup, assuming he can have a carryover season in 2024 like he had in 2023. Still don't love the Cubs rotation. But Justin Steele, Shota Imanaga should be enough to keep the Cubs competitive in the National League Central. I think the Cubs, as much as I hate to say it, the Cubs have a pretty good team.
All right, so that was kind of the recap of the teams. Now we're nearing the end of this episode. Now we're going to talk about our projections for this year. I'm going to go first. Number one, I'm going to go Cardinals. I have to go Cardinals for number one. Number two, I like the Reds. I like all their young talent on that team. Even though Noelvi Marte is suspended, I think still the pitching staff, even though it's pretty young, it's a good pitching staff if most of their players can play up to their ceiling, which doesn't always happen. But I think if the Reds get some things to go right this year, they could be pretty good. Number three, the Cubs. Number four, the Brewers. I feel like without Corbin Burns, they feel like they're kind of going to not really produce this year. I feel like the clubhouse I don't know. This is just what I think is going to happen. I feel like maybe the clubhouse without Burns is going to feel a little bit less than what they usually are because Corbin Burns was like really, really good. Number five, the Pirates, just because the Pirates are the worst team in the division.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. I'm going to go Cardinals up at the top also. I'm going to go Pirates at the bottom. Our middle is a little bit different. Number two, the division, I've got the Cubs. I think it's a St. Louis-Chicago showdown in NL Central. I just don't think that the Brewers have enough on the roster to survive losing Corbin Burns. I don't think the Reds are just ready for the prime time just yet. So Cardinals, Cubs. Afterwards, I'll take the Brewers. Fourth place, I'll take the Reds. I think it's just going to be a learning process for some of those younger guys that overachieved last year. And then finally, Pirates, because
the Pirates. Yeah. All right. So these were our predictions. We talked about some of the teams. We talked about Pagoda. We talked about what happened last year, what we think is going to happen this year. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this episode. It was fun for us. Hopefully, it was fun for you guys. We'll see you guys later.